There's also a sheet provided that tells you how to get on to take the state ethics test. You are required to read that information. And by signing the oath of office, it'll indicate that you've been sworn in. I've provided you with that information. If you haven't had time to read the information, then the other two documents, you should wait till you read it and then send them. You can email them back to us. If you have already read the information, then I can collect it tonight. So there's 3 sheets that you should be signing. So I'm just going to give hand her. Thank you. Sure. Okay, so they should be the first 3 in your first 3 top documents. And then if those that haven't been sworn in before could stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to perform your duties to the best of your ability to uphold the town bylaws, the general laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and the Constitution of the United States of America, so help you God?
I do.
Great. Right? I have fulfilled my duties, but I would like to thank each and every one of you for signing on to this. You do a great job, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all the time you work in your office.
Oh, it's my pleasure. That's what I'm there for, right? And if anybody has anything they want to do that. Sure.
We have 2 on Zoom.
I can just wait in the background.
And so who are we missing? Is it Steve Rhines? Got it. And he might, I got a text, I talked to him earlier, he might come on, but I don't think he was able to be sworn in.
Right, Steve could not. He called me about it.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right.
Warrant. Yes.
Sign here.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Bye, all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Judith.
Are you ready to rumble?
Oh, so soon.
I would like to make a motion nominating Dave Humphries as the chair of the 24 Warrant Committee.
Second?
I've been asked to organize the meeting. We have a motion on the floor. It's seconded. Would we like to have any discussion? I could lead that discussion. I could start. if nominated for chair, I would accept the nomination. If elected, I would serve. Every vote at the warrant committee is an important one. Everyone should make a vote. We should have a real vote. There's a story in the great autobiography by Tip O'Neill, where he tells a story where he had his neighbor, his old lady across the street. Do you want to take it away, Judith?
No, but, have some respect.
Right? Got it. You know, and
It's okay.
it's to the effect of, the story is to the effect of, he was like in the House of Representatives, and the neighbor says something along the lines of, yeah, I didn't vote for it. And he's like, what? I shoveled your lawn. I shoveled your driveway. I mowed your lawn. You didn't vote for me? And she said, it's a story to the effect of, you never asked. So I ask for your vote. I am asking you for your vote. Okay? I am asking for the vote of confidence, that we could proceed together. I think that I can run on my record as chair, that I would do my best to offer a fair deal to everybody at the board, whether it's our membership, the people who come before us, and ultimately to the town at town meeting. When I'm in communication with the various people who come to make presentations to us, I talk with them, and then they often say, like, can I do this, can I do that, can I bring this person, can I bring that person? I have sort of a stock speech that I say to them. What I am going to offer you is your ability to put your best foot forward. You have a proposal for the town. You put your best foot forward. If there's someone that you want to bring, the answer is going to be yes. If there's materials that you want to show, the answer is going to be yes, so that at least when they come and sit in the chair, we offer them the most fair hearing that we can give them, at least at the outset, right? To the members of the board, one of the things that I've done is I abstain from voting so that I can be impartial, and so that I can be, I believe, approached by any member of the board in confidence, to be able to share and discuss and to work through personal issues that we might have. And that if I believe that if I'm impartial and then I vote only in such cases there's a tie, which I haven't really had to do, only in a couple occasions on procedural things. At the annual town meeting, I think there were a couple of votes. But I think if you notice what I did is when I did cast that deciding vote, what I chose to do is to vote in favor of consistency. To vote in such a way that
We stayed the course.
that the voice of the committee remained. Because I think that stay the course is fine, Judith. It's important for us to speak with one voice, and I can be that voice. And I can stand up in front of town meeting and deliver our recommendation, even if it's not a popular one. That's fine. Although live long day, right? So, and that I think is what we owe to the town, is that the town needs to know that when the warrant committee delivers the recommendation, it's after this process, that we would all work together in collaboration to deliver our recommendation to the town. And, you know, and so that's what I would offer. I'd ask for you to consider that in your vote, and I am asking you for your vote. Thank you. Would we like to have any further discussion? I would encourage it, but, you know, it's your meeting.
I think we'd be lucky to have you serve as chair again, so I appreciate your willingness to do so.
I second that.
Might be the easiest vote we have.
There we go. Okay, so they're hearing no call for further discussion. We being a Zoom meeting, Madam Clerk, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Dave?
I'll abstain, thank you.
Julie Joyce, who is on Zoom.
Yes.
Timothy Lyons.
Yes.
JJ O'Connor.
Yes.
Julia Maxwell.
Yes.
Kristen.
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Lori.
Yes.
Allison.
Yes.
Jereen.
Yes.
Amanda.
Yes.
Judy.
Yes.
Steve Rhines is not here. Jay.
Yes.
Ronald on Zoom.
Yes.
Ron, you can.
Sorry,
I'm sorry.
sorry, I was on mute. Yes.
The motion-
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes.
Thank you, thank you. The motion passes.
Thank you.
13 yes, 1 abstention.
All right, thank you.
Congratulations.
And may I just
Sure.
comment? See, Chip O'Neill was not asking the old lady, because, you know, she's been around a long time, and maybe we really can find her up in the warrants.
Yeah. Thank you, Judith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint a secretary and nominate Tom.
Second. Oh. Did I jump in too fast?
Okay. Prerogative of the chair. Are there any other nominations?
I got a nomination. This guy right here, Jay.
Okay. Okay. Are there any other nominations?
Point of information,
Yep.
Mr. Chair. I am confused. So when Allison made a motion, which obviously needs a second, would we need a second on the second nomination?
So that's why I kind of
I'm not sure.
prerogative of the chair, just to put a hold,
Oh, I see.
right? So what we had done is we had a motion seconded. Our normal procedure is discussion and vote. But if there's a second nomination, I think what we should have some discussion of how to proceed in a contested election, if you will, okay? In order to proceed on that, right? And we can decide what we want to do and how to do that fairly. You know, one way that we could do would be to allow both parties to make a statement, to have a discussion. So we can discuss, throw that out there. One way we could do it is to have the parties, you know, make a statement, have a discussion, and then we could do voice vote, where you say the name, right? That's what occurs to me. Judith?
I'm sorry. If we are going to, I just pause at this.
Sure.
If we are going to proceed outside of parliamentary procedure, which is fine, if we all agree. Could we take sort of a straw poll vote to see if that's the way we want to go? Do you know, a sort of a non-binding sort of like feel the situation out, see where we want to go type of thing, and I don't know the answer.
So is that a straw poll vote on how we want to proceed or who we want to vote for?
Whether we should stay strictly to parliamentary procedure or the
Yeah.
motion on the floor, or deviate from that based on the community of this committee deciding that's okay.
I mean, we could, well, I mean, let's have a discussion. I think that the parliamentary procedure, like we can adopt such rules as we feel are appropriate to the circumstances on our commit, right? So we can decide, how to proceed. We could do just a straight up vote. The motion's still on the table for Tom. We could do a straight up vote on the motion to elect Tom the secretary. I think that knowing that there is a second potential nomination, part of our discussion should have a full discussion of both. Because in this sort of this contested election situation, it is like it could be a zero-sum situation, right? Are there thoughts? Julia?
As a new member of the committee, I would certainly appreciate hearing from
Yeah.
both of the nominees to understand they think they would bring to the role.
Kristen?
I was gonna say the same thing, that we have 4 new members of the
Yeah.
committee here tonight, and so, who are coming in not knowing, Steve and Jay, and I think that would be fair. So I think the way we vote probably doesn't make as big of a difference, we're just saying someone's name or yes or no. They're probably hearing from the both of them.
Judy?
It might be useful, then, as Kristen mentioned, we have some new members, and we can't assume that everyone knows how to do warrant committee, even though
Right.
for some of us that are returning. Okay. The role, I think we should discuss just without entering people's names, but what is the role for the 24 warrant committee secretary? And this is what it'll boil down to. We have Karen, who is really, who's our Madam Secretary, who we found last year to keep impeccable record.
Technically the clerk.
Clerk, I'm sorry.
Yep.
The clerk, who kept impeccable, even though sometimes I think we addressed her as Madam Secretary and we weren't supposed to. So her records are, we found to be impeccable. And if we were in discussion and we said, oh no, that happened at the July 1st meeting, in literally 2 seconds, she had that information for us. Sorry to keep singing, but, and so one would think a secretary in other committees that are smaller in town that don't have the advantage of having a clerk as we do because of our size, and sometimes because of our complexity, of having jammed in meetings to meet all the discussion that might be necessary for an article to go forth on the warrant to the town meeting. And so we are fortunate that that burden is not on any one of our committee members, so that they are really able to focus on the discussion and the work that needs to be done for the warrant. So, I mean, I know smaller committees, the secretary does perform those duties. I have attended smaller committee meetings, just to learn about the town and what's going on. And you know, somebody is always scribbling away or typing away. In the role of the warrant committee, a secretary, sole duty will be to fill in if the chair is unable to attend or perform the duties at that moment in time to be chair. Falls down, breaks both legs, and take it. So that's when and last year, it came to my attention, or my memory, it's in my memory that Dave only had to turn over once. He was going on some travels and, you know, made an announcement to the committee that if anything came up, then the secretary would be him. Nothing came up, Dave came home, and the committee went out. So, for a clarification, it comes down to that is the major role of a secretary for our committee, is to just stand in for Dave when necessary. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. I also think it's the secretary gets a lot of phone calls from me going like,
It's true.
what should we do? What is going on? What do you think? So when, like, Judith is like the only, the only, role really is to like step up and be able to
No,
move
I
in.
know.
But being able to step up and move in means you're in the loop,
Correct.
right? So it's, they're like Emily and I were on the phone a lot, just trying to wrap our heads around things, trying to just figure out like what's going on, what should we do. So while it does look, it can sometimes appear that the secretary is just sort of there at the meeting because Karen, our clerk, handles, like that, a lot of, the administration, right? It's important. So I'm just going to mention that. Let's just say, like, so that's what the secretary is. Okay. Did anybody have anything else? Then maybe we should hear from Tom and Jay. Tom, you were nominated, so what should we do? Should we have a debate?
You have some podiums?
Tom, I mean, stump speech. Give us your stump speech, Tom.
Well, I want to say, first of all, thank you for nominating me.
You're welcome.
I don't know necessarily if it was expected, but for those of you who don't know me, and some of you do, from our time last year, my name's Tom Caldwell. I live on St. Agnes Road in Milton. I am a lifelong resident of the town of Milton. Some starts and stops for college and elsewhere, but I grew up in the town. Was active in scouting, sports here. Attended the public schools in elementary school. I'm currently married. I have two daughters, one who attends Milton High School, the other who attends St. Brendan's School in Dorchester. And my wife works for Boston University. So that's just a little bit about me. And actually, let me add to that. I'm an attorney. I work for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I've done that for the past 10 years. Previous to that, I was Assistant District Attorney in Suffolk County, and for an extended period, I operated a private law practice in the town of Milton, located up in Simcoe Square, as a general practice firm. So that's just like a little bit about me, and I'm sure there are some members here who I spent a lot of time with over the last year who didn't know any of that. So I'm kind of happy I'm able to share that with you, and just a little bit about me. But like I said, I'm honored that I was nominated. I've been interested in town politics from a young age. My father was involved heavily in the town, in the school committee and the warrant committee. So I kind of grew up being involved, or at least being witness to some of the things that went on in the town growing up. And I think that the idea of public service, I think, has stuck with me throughout my life. I think some of the things I mentioned on my resume, also come from my family who have been public servants. When I moved back to the town, fortunate to move back and able to purchase a home, the first thing I did was run for town meeting because I know how important that is. And I thought I had a very strong desire to get back to the town. A town I love very much and gave a lot to me, and it's giving a lot to my children right now with the schools and all the activities that are available to them. We're very lucky. There's a lot of gratitude to the town for that. So I feel as if though I have to get back. And I not only serve here in the warrant committee, I've been a town meeting member for about 13 years, Jay, or like the same, like that. And I also serve in the bylaw committee, which some of you may know of, reviewing our bylaws. It's a long project. But I was nominated by the moderator Hess last year to that position to fill a much needed vacancy. And they were at a loss for people, and I was asked, again, honored, and to help the town kind of get through that very important issue that we discussed a lot in this room and at town meeting. So, as a second year member of the committee, in my observations of all of you, of the veteran members, Dave, the chair, and Emily, I know some of the duties, as Judy said, is to stand in, and Dave has been a very steady ship coming. So if elected, I don't really have a tremendous fear that I'm going to be running too many meetings, given Dave's excellent attendance and leadership here on the board. And I know some of the other duties are rather ministerial. I know, not only just discussing and communicating with Dave, but also keeping the votes, assisting Karen, collecting our comments that we draft. And in terms of those types of things, I think that not only I think some of you have seen here in the committee, just in terms of communication and organization, just in my everyday life as an attorney, organization is paramount to what I do. And so I believe that some of those ministerial duties will come rather easy to me. I'm sure there'll be a little bit of a learning curve. But it would be an honor to be your secretary here in the committee. I just gotta do my best. I know, and like I said, I'm not the chair, but I would hope, as David mentioned, that if people wanted to discuss an issue with me, that it would be held in the same confidence, with the exception if you wanted me to share that with Dave, and that's something that I would do. I don't know necessarily if any of you have those discussions with Emily. I certainly did not. I was very impressed by her, though, and her demeanor and her professionalism, and I hope to mirror that. I enjoyed meeting with her and working with her like I enjoyed meeting Jay over the course of last year. So again, as Tip O'Neill did, and Dave did, I asked for your vote. Thanks very much.
Jay?
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to start by saying how much respect I have for Tom. I didn't really know him before last year, and getting to know him as a co-committee member and, dare I say, friend is one of the better things that happened from last year.
Thank you, Jay.
This will not surprise anyone who served with me last year, but I have a presentation. Can I share it?
Yes. We can share.
How?
Do you have share screen at the bottom?
Let's see. Oh, I do. Okay. So let's see, is this, it doesn't appear to be sharing. What's happened from? Oh, hold on, it's my fault. Let's see. So while we're waiting for this, I did not go into my biography on this. I will say that, it's also my second year on the warrant committee. My background is more financial than Dave's. It's gonna look like ugly. It's gonna look like oh, there we go. My background is a bit more financial. I worked as an actuary for 15 years on employee benefits plans. If you ask Amy Dexter, she will cry when you hear how much I've talked to her about the town's employee benefits. And now I'm at Eversource, working both with numbers and regulations there. So I would be happy to serve as the warrant committee secretary. I'd be happy to serve with Dave. I think that having contrasting backgrounds, Dave has the legal background and I have the financial background, would make us a good team. And what are we really in the warrant committee? Our main job is we're the trusted advisor to town meeting. Like Tom, I think Tom may have started a year or two before I did, but we've been in town meeting approximately the same amount of time. I've actively participated in several floor discussions on town meeting, and I've observed many more. And I think I've seen what works at town meeting, and I've seen what doesn't work at town meeting. And so hopefully I can work with Dave to help get our message across in that role as advisor. So in the same vein as Dave asking for your vote, I think it's only appropriate for me to tell you what I see of the warrant committee this year, where I see the warrant committee to go. And you can make a decision. You like my vision or you don't like my vision. So, got 5 items that I'd like to hit on. The first would be a summit, which the summit would be early in the year. It'd be based on the school committee and the select board both have early in the year meetings. They have, I think they call them retreats, and they set these up to help guide their year. They meet on a Saturday or maybe a couple of evenings, and they use these to set their year going forward. And I think we could do that too. I'd like it to serve 2 roles. One is training. I think for the new members and for returning members, it's good to have training as to what is the warrant committee, what is our role, what is the warrant, how does it work, how do we interact with the warrant. I think all that would be good. I'd like to have special guests come in and teach us things. Like, I haven't spoken to this person, but I would love to have the planning board chair come in and give us zoning 101, because I know nothing about zoning, but we're gonna have to know at least a little bit about zoning in the next few months. And the second thing I'd like to do with this summit is set as a warrant committee, what are some of the goals and guidelines that we're gonna have for going forward in the year? And I'm gonna put a pin in that for now. I'm gonna talk about that in some later slides. So next, what I wanna say is, one thing that I want as a big theme for this year is no waiting. So last year, we got the budget somewhat late. That happens. Things happen. And this year, I don't know when we'll get the budget. Maybe we'll get it late, maybe we'll get it early. I'm hoping to set up a situation where it doesn't matter.
What do the bylaws say?
Yeah, January.
It's December.
Okay.
It's December.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to set up a situation where even if it's,
And it wasn't even close. to
yeah,
December.
I don't wanna like cast, I just don't wanna cast blame on anyone. Yeah.
I'm not sure how you would pull off that miracle by yourself.
So he has the floor.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm not sure what the
I
question is.
I do
Come on,
apologize.
let's let him put his
I'm sorry.
best foot
No.
forward, Judith.
Last year, we sort of had this
Okay.
when we weren't on
Thank
TV.
you.
Okay.
It was easier. I'm sorry.
So what I'm trying to say is that I'm hoping to set up a situation where it doesn't matter if we get the budget early or late or anywhere in between. Because I noticed that a lot of my questions and a lot of, I think, the other questions, people's questions on the warrant committee, a vast majority of those questions could be answered before we had the budget in front of us. We were asking questions like, how does this department work? What is this department's financial needs? What do they do? We can ask those questions in October. We can ask those questions in November. We don't have to wait till the budget is in front of us to start asking those questions. So I'd like to get a lot of work done early so that we're not waiting for the town to give us something before we start our work. Then when we do get the budget in front of us, we're ready to roll. Now I've got a section of the town bylaws at the bottom of this slide, and the reason I put it there is because it talks about what our duty is. And I would paraphrase this as saying, it's our responsibility to ask questions of the town, and it's the town staff responsibility to answer them. So, no waiting, that's gonna be important to me. The next thing I'd like to talk about is subject matter experts versus subcommittees. So, I was on a couple subcommittees last year, and good experiences working with my fellow warrant committee members, but they were unwieldy. We had to, because of the open meeting law, we had to set up, it said 48 hours, but in reality it was 3 days ahead of time. You had to say when you're going to meet just to talk to your colleague on the subcommittee. You had to give 3 days notice, work with 2 or 3 people in town to get it posted. It was a mess. And I think we would be much more nimble if we had subcommittees of one person. One person, you are the cemetery subcommittee by yourself. Go and learn about it and come back and talk to us. That person could be much more efficient. I put a little asterisk there. The schools are over half of the town budget. So it might be prudent to have 2 or 3 people on a subcommittee for the schools. For everything else, a subcommittee of one person, they're the expert, they report back to us. To give an example of how this might work, let's say the library subcommittee. Let's say our subject matter expert for a library is beloved celebrity Burt Reynolds. So he is a subject matter expert for a library. Burt goes to the library director in the fall, asks what's going on, what are your budget needs, what goes on with the library, what do you think your budget is going to be now? And then Burt would come back to the warrant committee and report to us, maybe November, maybe December, and say, here's everything that's going on with the library, here are the budget needs, here's what we expect to happen this year. Then in December, the library director gives their budget request to Mr. Milano. Burt takes a look at it, sees, okay, no surprises, great. There are surprises, they come back and report to the warrant committee. But front-loading a whole bunch of the work that last year, at least I did in February and March, get that out of the way in the fall, get that all done. Then we can be ready for the budget at the end of the year. I'd also like to have one sort of special subject matter expert, which would be a representative of the Select Board Finance Committee. The Select Board Finance Committee made a lot of the decisions about the budget before it came to us, and I would just like to have a person in that room, somebody that maybe is elected by the Warrant Committee, a person in that room, so that we don't have all 15 of us showing up to their meetings and asking questions and getting their way. It's just more efficient to have one designated person. They go to these meetings, they take notes, they come back to us, they talk to us.
Got it.
So I think it would be good to have one person in that role. Another thing is financial policies. Okay, so we've talked, this came up a bit last year. I think this is a role that where we can really help the town is setting financial policies for how to set the budget. Now I've got a list here of some things that I think would benefit from having either updated policies or written policies to help us set the budget. And one thing I'd like to say about any financial policies we might set, the most important thing about them is to set these policies before you're setting up the budget, earlier in the year. Because if we get to the point of January, February, if you're building the budget, and I say you, whether this is Mr. Milano, whether it's the select board, whether it's us, if you're building the budget at the same time you're setting these policies, then really what you're doing is you're setting the budget as you want to set it up, and you're making the policies to fit it. That's not a great way to do it. I'd rather, ahead of time, we think, what's the best way to address several of these issues? As you see, some of them are big, some of them are small, some of them are easy, some of them are hard. But set up beforehand, what are the best ways to address these issues in the town? And then we have guidelines. I say we, I mean us, Mr. Milano, the select board, all have guidelines as to what the best way is to set up a budget. So I've talked to people about this and they've asked me, well, is this the warrant committee's role or not? And I'd say yes, it is and it can be. By law, technically every town in Massachusetts has a finance committee, and we are that. Our name isn't finance committee, We do more than what a finance committee does, but officially we are the finance committee. And if there's any financial policy that's actually gonna have some teeth in this town, it would have to be approved by, or it would have to be supported by the warrant committee and the select board and the town staff. If it doesn't have support from all three of those groups, it's not worth the paper it's printed on. So the select board and the town staff, they have a lot to do. I've listened to recent select board meetings. They're dealing with roundabouts on Route 28. They're dealing with teenagers drinking in the woods. They've got a lot on their plate. I think this is one place where we can really step up and say, okay, we're gonna take this over. We're gonna start the ball rolling. When we get things started, take the first step, suggest some financial policies. We'll all have to get on board if they're actually gonna be implemented. I think to do this, and I know, I realized 2 minutes ago I was bad-mouthing subcommittees, so I'm taking it back a little bit. I think it'd be a good idea to, really as soon as possible, set up a subcommittee to start looking at financial policies. I'm saying as soon as possible because despite the weather outside, December is not far away. If we want to get something in place before December, we've got to get moving soon. So I'd like to get started on this. And the last thing I'd like to say is, what about internal policies for just how we're running our meetings? Just like in the same way that I said, it's really best to set up a financial policy before you're setting up the budget, because then you're not reacting to individual items. I think it's a really good idea for us to set up some policies as to how we want the year to go before a certain issue shows up. If an issue shows up and then we try to make ourselves a rule, then we're reacting to the issue in front of us. But for this summit that I think we would have in September, we can discuss how do we want the warrant committee to run, set ourselves some rules, and then the rules are set. They may not be binding, absolutely, but we know which direction we want to go, and that'll help us guide our conversations later. I'm going to bring up a couple things on this line. One is that the issue of, okay, so that phrase on the left, we've all heard the phrase, the warrant committee is a non-political committee. So what I want to know is, what does that phrase mean? I would say there are 15 members of the committee. We probably have 15 different opinions of what that means. But I'd like to get the conversation started by telling you what I think it means. I think it means that I don't think we're here to judge what the population of the town thinks or wants. Town meeting is 280 people. Town meeting is much better than we are at judging what the population of the town wants. That's the biggest virtue of town meeting. There are a lot of them. They have a lot of neighbors. They're the desires of the town, I would say. So I don't think the 15 of us were chosen because we have the 15 best opinions in town. I think we were chosen to give expert, informed advice to town meeting. So what we should do, uncover the facts, find the information, organize the information, come up with our recommendation, and lay it out as clearly as possible to town meeting. It's tough. There's certainly some votes that I made last year where I thought, well, personally, I would sure like to see this go another way, but I didn't want to we're not here to vote our personal opinions, we're here to vote for what the facts show in front of us. So that's my opinion of what non-political committee means. I'd like to, I think at the summit, that would be a great time for us to discuss what all of us mean as a consensus. And the last slide is the biggest question I had last year. The biggest question, I asked quite a few people this and never got a satisfactory answer, is under what circumstances should we change the budget that is given to us by the town administrator and the select board? They make a budget, they present it to us in the same way that the president presents a budget to Congress. So then we get the budget, and when can we change it? I'll answer that question. We can change it. We can make any change we want to the budget. That's not the question. The question is, when should we change the budget? And I never got a good answer to that. I've got some proposed answers here, but as you can see, I've got a couple suggestions, but I've got a lot more blanks and question marks than I have suggestions. I think this would be a great topic for us to discuss at the summit in September. Before we see a budget in front of us, let's discuss, when do we think it's a good idea to change the town budget that we get? And the one thing that I would say is, I don't think the answer is we never ever change the town budget, because we are the finance committee. The budget that is presented at town meeting is a budget that we are presenting to town meeting. And when I say that, that's not my opinion. That's state law. So It might be that we get a budget from the town administrator and decide it doesn't need to be changed, but I don't think that's the only option. I think we should be open to adding some value. But the question is, when should we change it? I don't have the answer, but I hope we can figure out the answer this September. So that is my overview of how I'd like to see this year run at the warrant committee. For a lot of these items, especially on the last few slides, this is the beginning of a conversation. This is not the end. I don't have the answers. I don't know where we're going to end up, but I want us to work together to figure out the path. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Judith?
So, are we still on this, or are we opening it up like anyone's been saying
Right.
at the moment?
So,
Or
right, I think
Yeah,
that
something to say.
we're still sort of in,
Feeling it out.
technically, right, according to our
Okay, I have a
Robert
question.
rules,
I have a question for
right?
one of the
So we're
candidates.
having the discussion, right, so is that fair? Yeah,
I have a
question time.
for one of the,
Sure, go ahead.
okay, so last year, I walked in and knew not one.
So why don't we start with this? So
So,
to start your
this is
question,
right
your
into the
question is for who?
Oh,
Whom?
from Mr. Funland, please.
All right, so that allows, like, the person who's going to answer the question to,
Yeah, that's a good point.
right? So
Yeah,
I have a
I-
question for,
get it.
right? Okay, Mr. Fund.
Yes.
All right.
So, I walked in, I didn't know one person, and not one. And that's okay. And I thought, oh, okay. We did have a wonderful discussion that night. We were not on camera, not all of us were sworn in, so we had to sort of, work around it. We did have a quorum to select a chair. And it was brought up by several members of last year. There were 8 new people last year. So the returning members, you were very kind to us as we were trying to find our footing and figure everything out. And it was suggested by a member that we all get together informally. Actually, there was an email, Jay, that went to all of us. And Katie Conlon, Mr. Hiss, Mr. Asher, were going to be kind enough to give the 23 Warrant Committee sort of a barbecue type, not on, we're not going to discuss town business or any article that's coming before us, because that would be OML violation. We were gonna meet and greet, feel comfortable, and we didn't have to worry about TV questions asking what we might think were obvious questions, and so therefore kind of looked dumb asking them. And sort of asking those that have gone before us, how's this work? What do we do? This is okay? And there was only one member at this committee that opposed that, Mr. Funland. You cited OML, not one of those 3 guests that were going to help us feel comfortable doing our duties on the Warrant Committee.
Judy, is there a question here?
Well, actually, probably there is for the committee, I guess. So how is it that how is it you suddenly changed your mind and think a summit is gonna be so fabulous this year? When last year, when a good number of us were very disappointed we could not go forward with a summit-like occasion to sort of get our feet in the door and feel comfortable, it kept citing something that would never have happened, an OML violation. Why this year it's so wonderful. And a follow-up, if you will. You did mention in your presentation that the select board has a summit and they, go away for a little retreat. They're working well now, huh? That is a question. I don't know, members walking out, members being asked to resign, whatever. I don't know, Jay. I'm just saying. those are my opinions in the form of a observation and trying to formulate it into a question to read the rules. So I don't agree with this presentation. Would you like to oh, that is the chair's duty to ask that question.
So I'm not really sure if there was a question in there. So Jay, I would give you an opportunity to respond as you best feel fit,
Okay.
is most appropriate.
Sure. Yeah, and you and I had a discussion about this, and I think I just remember it differently than you do. I did say.
Oh,
All right, Judy. Jay is talking.
he is.
I do recall saying it should be subject, anytime we got together for training, it should be subject to open meeting. The select board and the school committee have these retreats, or whatever they're called, that are part of open meeting. They are not televised, but they are open meeting. If someone wanted to go and look at them, they could. What I'm suggesting also would be open meeting, not televised. I assume not televised. Open meeting law, if somebody wants to wander by as we're having our summit, they can. It will be posted on the town website, in my imagination. What I recall from last year was there was a discussion of it happening, and I said, okay, let's just be sure let's be careful of the open meeting law. And I recall people saying, okay, we'll check with Sue Galvin and the town council and see if we need to follow the open meeting law or not, or not see if we need to follow it, but see what the rules are. And then we never heard back. So I don't think I prevented this from happening last year. If I did, then I very much apologize, because that wasn't my intent. I thought it just never happened. So.
I gotta say, it's probably my recollection as well.
We did have a discussion that did not violate open meeting law because
Okay.
the discussion was purely about this get-together and not about any business that had to, well, I guess that's business for the town. Anyway,
All right, thank you, Judy.
thank you.
And thank you, Jay.
For allowing me to,
Does anybody, have any questions? Do we,
Actually,
Allison?
this is for Mr. Funlight. Have you ever emailed somebody during a vote and asked them to ask them about their vote?
I have emailed Steve Rhines during the discussion. I did not ask him to switch his vote. That was the time when he was on Zoom and there's a lot of confusion, and it turned out there was confusion. It turned out he did say, "Oh, I was confused. I'm going to change my vote." I'll show anyone that email. Anyone.
Oh, okay, great. I would love to, because I was sitting next to you and I was concerned, and you were asking him why he was voting the way he was. But I would love to PRR that.
I'll show you the.
Yeah.
I'll show you the email right
In
now.
your opinion, is that appropriate during a vote to do?
I thought it was just fine, because there seemed to be confusion, and it turns out there was confusion. And I said, just so you know, I want to clarify how the vote went.
So you would say that you had no question in there of why they were voting? So that because if you're going to be a secretary, I'm concerned about your impartiality.
I would like to pull up the vote.
We can.
Well, I can show it to you right now.
But
Okay.
let's PRR it. But at the same time, I think it's concerning, especially even knowing that, I didn't talk to Tom and tell him about, if you would be nominated. Maybe you've had conversations, but it's concerning to me if we're going to be impartial as a secretary to have discussions outside and put a presentation together ahead of time. Now, you may have talked to a dream, whatever, and that's great. You have a friendship outside. But when it comes to, following, you're very strict on the bylaw, I just think it would have been, and maybe you prepared and hoped that somebody was gonna nominate you, but I think it goes in with a feeling as if, he didn't have that opportunity, he didn't even know. I didn't have a conversation. I'm concerned that there is this little bit divisiveness in this, and if we're gonna be a very open group, we have to be able to go. And right now, I don't feel that way. And from some of the actions of last year and being on emails in regards to town stuff, and that became very public, I find that you're not as impartial, and that would be concerning to me as a member. And another case would be, have you ever been on an email that had to do with the vote on the warrant committee that asked people to be in this room for that night vote.
I'm not following.
The vote that we made for the land swap, there was a call to order for people to come into this room and to be present, and was your name on that email?
Yes,
I don't think I got any email like that. I do remember asking
I have a
people.
copy.
Well, hold on.
I'm just asking,
know.
but it makes me concerned, and then my point, Chair, is that I just wanna make sure, and this is not to make you, you know, we all have friends outside, and maybe you were put on for whatever reason. My concern as a group is that we need to make sure that if we're gonna get through this year, we need to work together, and it makes me a little nervous to see these kind of things outside and be like, well, that person's impartial, when they're part of things that were very hard for us as a team in here. So that's my concern. I've seen the email with it, maybe you weren't aware of it, but you definitely received it. But I'm just concerned about as a group moving forward.
May I address something in the same column as Allison?
I know you have to ask the chair.
So, thank you. We're allowed to have concerns. I'm just gonna also say, Jay can't control who puts him
No, I'm not.
as the recipient of an email.
Well, he can if he's on their election campaign,
Okay, so,
and that's how the email was
So
sent.
we're
I
allowed-
don't have my computer with me,
right, well,
but I am more than happy
This-
to forward it to every single member of this warrant committee, but I lost my train of thought.
okay.
There's Tip O'Neill, to say
Right.
the old lady.
Hold on, Jay, do you want to respond to that?
I guess to the last part, I do remember discussing that people would show up. I told several of my friends, please don't show up. I think it'll do more harm than good. People don't listen to me.
Yeah, but you didn't send out a mass email.
He's not
saying
required
This is
to.
not a good idea.
No, I thought that would have been a really bad
Yeah,
idea. I thought sending out a mass email on anything like that would have been a bad idea.
Well, then did you tell
Okay,
the
hold
people
on,
that
hold
were also on
So,
that head?
Jay, you don't
were
have
like
to
the third name after Zoll.
Judy, this is election for secretary. Jay has made
I
his,
actually heard Tip O'Neill on the Congress
Okay.
floor in Washington.
right,
It was magnificent.
right, so
It was just wonderful.
I saw Kristen's hand first, and then we'll go to JJ. Kristen?
So I think we could all say last year,
Right,
we still have
year.
some hard feelings.
yes,
We gotta start over fresh.
yeah.
People will have their reasons to vote for Jay, people will have we will vote how we vote, and I think, maybe I think like starting over fresh is really important, because we have all new issues to address this year. So, a vote for Tom, a vote for, and if you have those personal reasons of, why but I hope we can kind of put last year behind us. Cause I think otherwise we can just.
It's not gonna go there, Kristen,
Yeah,
because on my
I know,
list is,
yeah. No, I think we're bringing up stuff from last year, and I think really we wanna maybe on the merits think of like, why we think Tom would be good, why we think Jay would be good, and maybe try to like put last year behind us would be.
Okay, thank you. That's a really great point.
and it is, and
So Judy, JJ had his hand up next.
JJ. I'm so sorry.
Don't worry.
I apologize.
Don't apologize.
I thought you were just hiding behind those books. and
Yeah,
over there.
it's a big stack.
Yep.
I was gonna say that pretty much to the letter. Like, sounds like we're going backwards to last year, which I think it was a very contentious issue, and we were on, like, it divided us, and that's what contentious issues do. So, I'd love to move past that. And with respect to last year, Tom and I were on opposite ends of that issue, but we still had a good time together. Tom and Jerry, as some people call us. But, with respect to this election, or if it is an election, I mean, I personally like that Jay has ideas and he came prepared, you know, and I have a great relationship with Tom, but if it was up to me, I would go with the guy who's prepared. And, you know, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Parks and Rec, but Jay is straight out of Parks and Rec. Like, he knows everything about all this stuff. And I don't know how he gets the time. He's always coming up with stuff. So I think, personally, I would like to have someone in there who knows about all this stuff. Like, every time I talk to Jay, he's bringing up something else that's very technical that I'm like, I don't even know that exists. But anyways. And I think he helped you out too, Dave, a couple of times with technical stuff last year, right? So anyways.
Yes. So Judy, you,
No, I'm only teasing
right,
you.
and so
I'm sorry, I was.
Jareem hasn't spoken yet.
Yeah.
So, and the hands went up at the same time, so in other words,
So-
Jareem.
Full disclosure is that Jay has a habit of reaching out to people. We all know this. And initially last year, Jay told me that eventually one day he wanted to be secretary. So while I sort of support what you're saying, what you're doing, I think you're doing and saying the right thing, right? Because you're keeping them honest and you're keeping us all informed, right? I just want to assure you guys that this wasn't a setup, okay? So with that said, it's, you know, I feel Jay is prepared, and I knew he would be prepared, not with the presentation. I mean, but why wouldn't I think that? Because he did it like 3 times, 4 times before, right? And essentially, my concern is that it's your concern, to be honest with you, right? Because we all sort of know a little bit about everything. And so I applaud you for bringing it up, speaking up and saying something, right? So that if he is kind of coming to a line or cross the line or what have you, he's aware that that's where we're at. You know what I mean? So I still support him in this respect and regard. And I also like Tom. To be honest with you, you know, I didn't really want to cause a commotion, but, you know, this is what happens sometimes here, right? So with that said, I'd just like to say I still support Jay. Watch out, though, man. You know what I mean? With the things that they're talking about, because it can be taken and perceived in nefarious ways. You know. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Allison had her hand up.
I'd just like to go to a vote.
Okay.
Because I think we,
All right.
it's like, we've done this.
So Judy,
I'm good.
okay, so let's talk about vote, okay? We have, I went and I took a fly through the bylaws. We can vote as we deem fit, I believe. There's no prescription specifically with regards to how we do this. There's a couple options that we have. I went to Robert's Rules of Order, and one way that we could do this is we could go to a ballot. We could go to a written ballot where people write the name down, and then we collect them up. We'll figure out how to handle our 2 Zooms. One way that we do that is that if we do a voice vote, which we can, you know, then we're doing the voice vote, and it's on the record. If we did the ballot, you know, the vote could speak for itself. You know, I'm just bringing this up because, you know, there's a certain amount of contention, right? If we did the ballot, we wouldn't have to like put people in a position to say this way or that way. That being said, you know, we are all adults here. You know, we make the votes all the time. You know, we're accountable. So let me just ask that sort of as a question. Like, you know, how do we want to proceed? Do we want to proceed just straight to I propose one way we could do it would be a roll call voice vote, where people indicate their choice for secretary, or we could do it by a ballot, and then we would collect those up. The clerk would collect those up. We'd just figure out a way to get the 2 votes from Zoom. Judy?
The Zoomers could confidentially, with that, to our appointed clerk, who could write a ballot.
Yeah, I mean,
Be a proxy
we can have them
sort of for them.
send a text or an email.
They can text or email, as long, I don't know the rules.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
I'm fine with them.
I don't-
You're
I think-
emailing me or
I think we're kind of we're going with the
I
rules.
don't know.
texting might keep it.
Yeah, I mean, town email would be better. They might be able to do it in the chat on Zoom. As long as, like, if you look at it and I look at it, then we can confirm that that's what the vote is. Right?
I just say we go to voice, to be honest, like, it's a win-win for everybody,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what,
Like-
let's not make it more.
Okay, let me ask this question. Is there an objection to going to a voice vote?
Zoomers can raise a hand or unmute if you have an objection.
It's not so much an objection, but an opinion of the chair. Do you think, we, may better able to proceed if we just write it down and then, I don't know, which, in your world or?
Oh, in my world.
Can I have a quick suggestion?
JJ.
Maybe it's just easier to have a quick vote on ballot versus voice vote. We just go around really quick, and whatever wins, and then we can proceed that way. Does that sound
Why
good?
haven't they done already?
Listen, in my world, I
I mean, I don't care either way. I'm just saying, like, it seems like we're debating this.
I would assume that whatever.
there's a saying among fighter pilots, speed is life.
Okay, yes.
There you go.
Okay, speed is life. If there's not hearing an objection to going to a voice vote, it sounds like that's how we're gonna proceed. So,
We've got some.
She's not here, Sheila.
Is she coming back?
unknown.
Unknown.
She's not coming back.
I doubt,
She's not coming back.
okay,
Okay.
What's going on?
so,
She had an
unknown.
emergency, yeah, something to do.
Okay, next one.
I will reach out to her and we'll just, okay, so. Can we, there was a motion for Tom, it was on the floor, made by Allison.
Allison, I'm not sure Jay's has been seconded. Is that
Well,
correct?
so that's the thing, is
So Dream-
technically,
Dream, Allison and Judy for Tom, and Dream made the motion, and there was no
Second.
second.
all right, so seconded by JJ. I think what we might want to do is withdraw the motion. That's okay. And then, as prerogative of chair, I can call for a roll call vote for each member to state the candidate for which they're voting. That will become a record.
Okay.
Okay?
Sure. But there's 2 withdrawals, there were 2 motions, so.
Yeah, so we just
Julie and
cleaned up the
Allison.
record,
Yeah.
such as it is, speed being life. Madam Clerk, would you please conduct a roll call
Both
vote?
have been withdrawn, correct?
Both have been withdrawn, and so we're just by prerogative of chair, I'm asking for the voice vote on the on the issue of election of the secretary.
Sorry, I'm just changing my chart here. Dave?
I'm going to hold off, please.
Okay.
Call me last.
Okay, Julie Joyce?
Tom?
Tim Lyons?
Tom?
JJ?
Jay.
Julia,
Jay.
Kristen,
Tom.
Tom.
Abstain. Okay, no, I'll abstain too. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Lori,
Tom.
Allison,
Tom.
Jareen,
Jay.
Amanda is not here, Judy?
Tom.
Oops. Steve Rhines is not here, Jay has abstained, is that correct?
Yeah, if Tom abstained, I abstained.
Okay, Ron,
Jay.
I have Tom with 6-4, is that what you've got?
By my tally on the vote by the Warrant Committee to elect the secretary, I have Mr. Jay Fundling receiving 4 votes and Mr. Tom Caldwell receiving 6 votes as confirmed by our clerk. And so the Warrant Committee has,
Congratulations.
good job.
Thank you guys both.
We've got
Thank
a
you.
very good secretary. I'm very
Yeah,
happy.
thank you guys.
Thanks everybody, you know, whatever, I'm really looking forward to this year, I really am. I had a good time last year, really did, meeting and talking with everybody, and I'm looking forward to helping Dave,
Thank you.
this year.
And can I say, Jay, I know that you're very rules-based and you're very chain of command. Even if Tom is the secretary, please do not let that to be an impediment to your phone calls to me on your important issues. I do appreciate them. You know, it's like, you know, so here I am, I'm like this fighter pilot, speed is life. Jay is one of those people that is often an early warning detection system. Jay sees things on the, you know, like over the horizon. And so having a person like Jay around is really helpful. So Jay, thank you for your phone calls and for your, you know, hard work here. And please don't stop.
Thank you for saying that.
Judy.
Sorry. I did have, not in an OML violation way, but I did let the last year's chair and this year's chair know that there was an issue that was important to me, and I think should be important to the Warrant Committee, and therefore the citizens of this town that rely on us to be honest in how we come to our conclusions and deal with one another and how we vote on this committee. Came to a lot of people's attention, not only members of this Warrant Committee, but elected officials in town, citizens, town meeting members, that the hybrid method was not really the best method for our committee last year. It allowed some, and I don't know the right word, and I will take help with that. It allowed for some, the word I use when I'm speaking
Okay.
informally with others is shenanigans.
So Judy, I'm not.
I want to see us, last year we did this at our very first meeting, we decided whether we would go hybrid.
You're right. So Judy, I think like,
That is on the agenda.
so the agenda items were,
Left it open.
yeah, the discussion of the annual town meeting. So
We'll need to vote, right? So I wanna know how we're gonna get there.
So, as chair of the Warrant Committee, okay, I think the issue that you're raising, and it was not just us, it was a lot of people, was the efficacy of the Zoom, right, of the online meetings, is that there was a lot of downside. We prefer the in-person for so many reasons. there has been discussion as to going in person only and not having like a hybrid option. We can talk about this, we can figure this out, but like, we do find that having the hybrid option is useful. We have 2 people on tonight who would not be here otherwise. Both of them are brand-new members, right? We had an election here, that's an important election, our votes are important. So there are times when having hybrid gets our entire board to be able to vote, which can be crucial, especially if we're talking about like the land swap vote. We need everybody there. And sometimes the only way we're gonna get everybody there is gonna be on the hybrid. Let me jump it, it's like 8:20. Let's just jump ahead to, talk about the town meeting. And then I think we should pick our next date for when we're gonna come back and get started on things, okay? Because I think.
Oh, the internal things like this, deciding how we're going to proceed on things.
All that, like just what our next meeting is and to get going, kind of like what Jay was talking about. Like we don't need to wait for things to come to us, because I think that there are likely to be some big things, okay? So where the warrant, the town meeting will meet at least twice, one in the fall, one in the spring. Spring is the annual town meeting where we will handle the whole budget, okay? There's a lot that goes into that. On the warrant committee, we really, okay, Judy, we really are, March is warrant committee. March is just block off March. March is warrant committee. And that's just the budget. There could be other issues. There are big ones coming. I think that what we can anticipate, that we will be asked to be very involved in MBTA zoning is happening. What has happened is that there's been a law passed in Massachusetts that's requiring communities that have MBTA access to be zoned for certain density of multifamily housing. And that is going to require our town to go through its most fundamental rezoning of the town since like the 1930s. The warrant committee will be required to make a recommendation to the town with regards to that. That's a big deal. That's coming. I think the other things that we could be looking at, accessory dwelling units could come back again. I would expect there's a high probability accessory dwelling units are the ability of people to build like an apartment in their house. Currently, right now, Milton is zoned as single family, basically. And the ADU question, I think, is very likely to come back to us. There's a bylaw with regards to residential zoning, I think we'll see. And then the school building, right? It's my understanding that they're looking at the possibility of a land purchase on Brook Road. Who knows what's going to happen with regards to that? So that's there. The school building is something we could be looking at, and then.
You said Brook, I just wanted.
Is it, what road is it? Brush Hill?
Brush Hill, yeah.
Brush Hill?
I didn't know if I should say anything.
Yeah, I'm just making this up. I'm still focused on Fonbon, I just like, right? It's like, so, and then let's not forget the strong possibility of a budget override. Strong possibility. So Jay's question with regards to at what point does the warrant committee get involved in really moving numbers around in the budget? In a budget override situation, if the question is when, that's almost like ipso facto, right? So get ready. Oh, and then the unexpected, right? Oh, and then expect the unexpected. So, we need to be on our toes. So just a couple things, especially to the new members, welcome. But you've taken the oath, so you can't get out. Once the hand goes up, you're in, right? It's now you're subject to the Uniform Code of Warrant Committee Justice, right, for the term of your enlistment. A couple things, like, all of these boards and committees meet. All the boards and committees, they have to post the same agendas that we do on the town website. So the select board meets all the time. The planning board meets all the time. All these committees are meeting, and then they're noticed and their agendas are online. And then we have the excellent service provided to us by Milton Access Television, right? Is that if you can't catch the meeting, it's easy to go grab the agenda, because the agenda, the meetings flow. You have an idea where in that 9-hour and 45-minute select board marathon meeting this is going to be about. And so then you can go and you can watch these discussions that they're having, and you can do your homework, because a lot of these things we're going to need to do our homework. And then another important, and this is a caution, I know that the moderator Robert Hiss, he's right to do so, he really asks that we refrain from getting involved in these issues on social media, that we just stay out of it. I myself do not believe that social media is a good place for any kind of public debate or discourse. It tends towards the vulgar. And it's not communication. And communication, like we expect that we would come here to our table, have different points of views and communicate. This is an exchange of ideas. Most of what I see on social media is not much of an exchange of ideas. It just seems to be this competition for who can amass the most likes and have the highest social standing in their selected peer group. And it tends towards being very high school. And, I already did that. So that's the caution. The town needs us to be able to stand up and to be honorable and to deliver our opinion after a considered, mature and respectful debate. We do err. I was mean to Allison, and I apologized to her this time, and she accepted my apology, and she was nice. It happens. It happens. And so, when we get heated and when we get emotional, as I did, we want to keep it together. Anyway, so social media, please stay out of it, okay? Because then the issue of politics. We are in politics, like newsflash, right? I think the question is at what point is it partisan politics? Okay, this is politics. In my sense, anytime you have more than two people, you now have politics. We're just built that way. This is politics, okay? And the stakes are high, right? The question is, at what point is it partisan advocacy right? We're here for mature, considered debate on the issue to render our opinion, right? At what point are we partisans advocating some other perspective, okay? And so in that light, I think that if you're on social media and you're out there being involved in that, then you're setting yourself up to be seen as a partisan, and then there's questions. Okay, and so then that's one of the reasons why I, seek to abstain from the vote and then stay and help guide and direct the conversation, but I don't necessarily participate in it as much, so that when it's time for me to get up in front of an auditorium of Aruka assaults and tell them that Oompa Loompas are not for sale, okay, I can just do it. And people, don't have to say, oh, look at him. He has a record of this and that, the other thing. He doesn't really mean that, see, et cetera, okay? So that's the caution, is that, we seek to have, the highest possible standard that we would hold ourselves to. We don't have a code of conduct, right? We all know what we're supposed to do. You know how you're supposed to act. We do, right? We know how to act. We know what's expected of us. We don't need somebody to tell us what to do. So, and that's what, the one thing that I ask from Mr. Hess when he puts people on the committee. He asks me, like, what kind of background do you want? What kind of are you looking for? But I ask him, as I say, you do that. You got a better idea what the pool of applicants is, and you have a better idea of how to make us diverse. The one thing that I ask of him is, to the greatest extent possible, I like to have people who can play nice in the sandbox with the other kids. Right? Okay. So that's sort of the caution. Please stay off the social media. Don't get involved, because it can give us the appearance of being, partisan activists and not the humble public servants that we truly are. So that's all I got. Does anybody have anything they want to say? Okay. When do we think we should meet again? I'm thinking it might not be a bad idea. Would we like to meet kind of soon, in a couple weeks? Do we want to meet like in a month? I am thinking that if I were to ask for an update from the town planner, Tim Zerwinski, about MBTA zoning, that might be something that we could get started on, right? And then with our new members to sort of to see what that's like. And, I'm sure that they would be very happy. Like, these are things we could ask for. The school building committee is always happy to give an update, but I'm thinking, yeah, I know, right? But I'm thinking that maybe like an update from MBTA zoning, that's like happening. If that, the timeline for that right now would be addressed at the town meeting in December. They actually kicked that date out in time a little bit in order to give them time to put that together. So do we think like in a couple weeks, or do we want to do it in a?
I feel like I have on my calendar, an MBTA forum on Monday night, because I don't know if I can't get on the website to tell. It's the virtual.
It's Monday, I think.
So our night, our warrant committee night is Monday. That's the night that we traditionally meet on. Okay, so let's go August.
I think we need to be with our families.
Yeah, no, sure.
We're gonna have enough time in this.
21, do you want to shoot for like August 21? Before school starts?
Is that the week before school starts up? My only concern is that, like, that, because there's no camps. and like people will go away. That's,
I don't know
that's
what
only my only
I
concern.
don't know what the school calendar is.
So we're starting school on the 30th, and I'd be more inclined to like the week of school starting.
28?
Be like, no, but I think the week before, from what I
People just,
feedback,
sure,
is there's no camps because they all end
yep,
the week before school starts for some weird reason.
all right.
Yeah, but a lot of the country, the 23rd to the 5th.
And so
August 23rd to the 5th.
we would do it before then,
14.
the 14th.
Yeah, the 14th works. And then people can join over Zoom.
Okay, it's fine, we'll shoot for August 14. And I'll line something up.
Well, I mean, if people will be away.
Okay, you'll be no vote.
Right, we would not be voting more than likely on anything.
Okay.
And so what we would be trying to do is probably for August, that date is definitely MBTA zoning. I think we would really like to have just get everybody up to speed on what is this, what does this mean, what's gonna come to us, and how is it gonna get? I mean, because like what's likely to happen, you know, is when they rewrite the bylaw, like we could get 2 pages of single-spaced legalese.
Should we,
That we're going to need to understand. We're going to need to understand, what does this mean? What's the interplay? What does this mean? You know, et cetera, et cetera. And then, you know, we will have to render, you know, the way it works is we render, you know, our recommendation to the town on whether they should vote in favor or not to the bylaw as written. You know, we would begin drafting, getting in there and redrafting things at great peril.
so we could, from understanding correctly, so we'll meet like mid-August, and at that time decide if we need to come sort of right back in, you know?
Yeah, I think,
Right after school starts and give us, I think from our experience on the land swap, there were some long nights and a lot of,
This is giving me flashbacks.
I know, so it was okay, no.
no,
But I mean, an article that weighty and big, and I think this is probably gonna be.
when people get, my sense is that the town still hasn't figured out that MBTA
Half
zoning.
people don't know what it is.
Just wait, like, when people figure out what this means, like, right now, they're talking about something on the order of 2,500 units within a 3/4 mile.
That's if they get reclassified. Not if it goes through as it is.
No, as it is,
Yeah.
it's 2,500.
You sure? I thought it
Oh,
was.
I'm sure. 2461.
Oh, 2460.
So, and then there's a lot of play. There's a lot of interplay and a lot of issues. And then I guess what I'm saying is that we need to get a jump on this. This is going to be a big deal when people figure out what this is, what this means.
And we're gonna need a lot, I think, a lot of people coming in to really explain, maybe people from, obviously, the planning board, and I don't know who else
No,
in town.
there's a-
It just
there
seems
are
like we
groups
need
in
a lot
town.
of information to come to us.
I will expect, I'm sure that we will have presentations from lots of different people, right? But
Go to the community, go to the forum,
that's a good point.
Monday night. Zoom.
And it's on Zoom, and do you have to sign up, a curious
No,
question?
Some-
Does anyone have to sign up ahead to
They
speak?
send out an email with a link. If you
If
send
you
an email
wish
with
to
them.
speak
Yep.
at that, but maybe, here's a curious question. Should we, the warrant, anyone from the warrant committee be asking questions? I don't
I
know.
watch all of them because I live in the
Yeah.
LA corridor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Either way.
It's just a question,
where?
what do you think?
So
I mean, we are citizens.
you're a citizen, you know, like, it's tricky. It's along, my sense is it's along the lines of like the, social media. Now, first of all,
Okay,
you have a First Amendment right to speech. You have a First Amendment right to assemble and to worship. And, you know, I'm not gonna tell anybody, like, you know, there's a difference between asking a question and getting up and advocating, et cetera. So, like, my sense is that if you're at a meeting and it's important to you to get the answer, and the person that's can give the answer is there, ask away, right?
got it.
There are people out there who actually watch this stuff. There are people out there, if you were asking questions, are going to know that person's on the warrant committee. Okay, and there are people in town. You see how, like, we do our little vote and I may do my little tally? There are people in town who are going to be watching you and all of your votes. And they're going to be sitting at home with their little tally. And so my point is that understand that if you're at these meetings and you're speaking, people know you're on the warrant committee. Asking questions and engaging in the public discourse along those lines is one thing. Standing up and making an impassioned argument in favor or against, while you have a right to do so, I'm asking
So
you.
we could ask questions.
Yeah, I'm asking you to
that-
consider, like, saving that for the warrant committee meeting and our discussions on the record.
Okay, makes sense.
All right, I'm seeing people yawn. I'm stifling them myself.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So I put my cell phone number at the bottom of all my emails. So if anybody has anything, just the easiest, I'm a phone guy. I'm a phone guy. Call me. Okay? All right, great. Is there a motion?
To adjourn, yes, right here.
Right, is there any opposition? We're adjourned, thank you.
Thank you, it was nice meeting you.
Thank you.